So what is self-awareness and self-management? Well, there are two key components of this idea called emotional intelligence. So today we're going to talk about and break into detail a lot more about and go deeper into this idea of what self-awareness is and what self-management is. To begin, let's talk about a little bit of the history. It's kind of funny how the history of emotional intelligence even came about. Back in 1992, 93, two professors were sitting around painting a house, actually. And as they're painting this house, they're having a conversation about a business and a leader in this business. And one of the things that they came out as they were talking with each other and having this debate back and forth is they said, how is it somebody that's so smart can make such dumb decisions? And really that's what began this idea of leaders being smart and human. That how could somebody be so smart, make such bad decisions from a business perspective, which had an impact on the people and the humans that were working in those businesses? So Goldman took that idea, Dr. Goldman took that idea and he ran with it, and he developed a book on emotional intelligence. So he's kind of the father of emotional intelligence, but reality, it's these two professors that were having a conversation while they were painting a house about why are smart people so dumb. So I've taken this idea of emotional intelligence and turned it into 6 key areas or concepts. So our 6 areas that we use and we discover, our assessment is built from, is this idea of self-awareness, self-management, and self-motivation. In fact, there's 3 key components that just have to do with self, who I am as a human being. Then we created 3 more competency areas that have to do with others and as I interact with others. And we call them social awareness, organizational management, and organizational motivation. So that's our system for developing emotional intelligence. And if you take an opportunity at the end of this to take our free assessment, you'll be assessed around those 6 areas. So today we're just going to focus in on self-awareness, but we're actually going to break self-awareness down into 3 components and really focus in on one of those components today. We'll be following up with a couple other videos that will take care of the other 2 components. So join us on this series of learning about being more self-aware. So we break self-awareness down into 3 components now: emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, and self-confidence. So those are the 3 key components. Today we're going to talk about and just break down this idea of being emotionally self-aware. So you're busy, I'm busy, we're all busy, we're running through life. Things are coming at us. I got my home life, I got my friends, I got my church, I got work, I've got people I don't even know expecting things from me, right? I'm driving down the road and people aren't liking the way I'm driving my car down the road. And so all these things are coming at us, which has driven us to be not as open and understanding to the humans around us. We've almost become isolated. And you tap into that, what's happening today in the world, and how we've really become a world that is living in isolation because of the things that are happening. And all of these things with the social media, and we've just become, and we've lost this ability to really accurately assess our emotional intelligence. So as we begin now to talk about that, we're going to give you some ideas on how you can begin to accurately do that. And the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to learn how to pause. Because our inability to pause is what keeps us ineffective in our relationships that are most important to us. So let's dive in. What is emotional self-awareness? Well, if you want to look to the slide here, I'm going to identify that there's 4 key attributes that a person needs to be aware of to have this emotional self-awareness. First key component of this idea of emotional self-awareness is I'm aware of the influences on my thoughts, emotions, and behavior. So what does that mean? You're aware of these things that are happening to you and the impact on your thoughts, your emotions, your thoughts, and behavior. That as you're going through life, things are happening to you. Do you find yourself getting frustrated? Do you find yourself getting irritated? Do you find yourself getting sad? Are you happy? So how aware are you as things are happening to you in your life that you're aware of those things, and what is the emotion that it's driving? So part of being self-aware is being able to recognize when something happens, what's the emotion that it drives, and then what's the behavior that it influences. And most of us, if we're not pausing, we aren't taking the time to be able to actually even be aware of those kinds of things. We're just kind of acting through life. So the first key of this is to really identify that how do those things that come at me, how am I emotionally dealing with them? And what does that drive? What kind of actions, what kind of behaviors, what kind of results do I get? So the second key is, do I understand how external and internal influences alter my thoughts, emotions, and behaviors? So what does that mean? Am I aware of how those external begin to influence those things, my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions? So it's one thing to start understanding that these things are happening, but then how are they altering who I am and who I want to be? Probably had experiences in the last week where you behaved in a certain way, you reacted in a certain way, and as you turned around and walked away from that, you probably said to yourself, man, that was really dumb. I probably really shouldn't have done that, because you knew that it impacted. Imagine if you could know that and be aware of that before you do those kinds of things. Just had an experience last week. I got to go to a wedding of my brother. And about a couple months ago, he's got a young daughter that just got married. And in my terms, she's just part of this new generation. And she was posting some things on Instagram that I decided to, decided one day to challenge her on these things that she had posted. And as I challenged her on those, the interaction got worse, and got worse. And finally, in the end, it was basically, she said to me in the end, don't ever contact me again. Don't ever see me again. I don't ever want you in my life. And I thought, man, what did I just do? Here I was, should have been aware of my thoughts and my emotions and how they were impacting decisions that I was making. But I just got caught up into that, and I didn't. And so for the last couple months, I've been wondering, how do I resolve that? How do I get back the level of trust and confidence that I had lost because of my actions and my behaviors? So at the wedding, that's the main reason why I went to this wedding, was I wanted to see my niece get married. She's important to me. But one of the key things I wanted to do at that wedding also was be able to approach her, my niece that I had this interaction with, and apologize and really let her know how sorry I was. So I found the right moment, and her husband were standing there, and I walked up and really hadn't had much interaction with them. And I just told her that I was so sorry, and I really apologized, really sincerely, to let her know that her relationship with me is way more important than this issue that we had. And I was sorry for the things that I said. And I thought what was really interesting, I didn't know how she would respond, but she responded and gave me a hug. And that was kind of the best day of being able to resolve that. I wish I hadn't had that, but then I knew that I could go back and sincerely repair that if she was willing to do that, and she was. So think about, again, it's not just being aware. I'm aware that I have these emotions. Now I want to know, am I aware of how they're impacting the decisions and behaviors that I'm making? So the third item I want to share with you is, I recognize the relationship between thought, emotion, behavior, and personal performance. So what we're talking about here in the end is that am I drawing a line? Am I making a line between my thoughts, my behaviors, to the results I'm getting? So now we've gone to, am I even aware that I'm doing these things? Am I aware how these things are impacting my behavior? And now I'm asking the question, am I aware of how these things that I'm doing and the behaviors, are they impacting the results? So in the example I just gave you, the result that I got with my niece wasn't what I wanted. And it was very obvious that I hadn't got the result. So can I track that result back to, initially, and where can you interject in that system to make those things better? So the sooner you can begin to understand emotional self-awareness, we're talking about here is the ability that I have to get better and better and better to understand when I can inject and change so that I can get a result that I'm wanting to get better than I've been getting in the past. So that's the third component of this, is that can you tie all those other two things now as it flows through into this third thing? Can I really see how it's impacting the results that I'm getting? And then the last and the fourth thing is that my actions, thought, and behavior are guided by my goals and values. So this, to me, is really the key. That without goals, and particularly without values, that I'm going through life, there's nothing guiding me on how to really behave. But when I can actually sit down and identify my values that are important to me, that how I want to live my life so that I can have the success in relationships that I want to have, that without a set of values that I've written down, key here is written down, and I review on a regular basis, then I can assess my behavior against those values and begin to understand where I need to change and what thoughts I might need to change, and where, from a self-awareness perspective, can I get better and better and better. But the foundation of all of this is built on this idea that I've got certain values and certain goals that I'm moving towards. And now, as I'm interacting with others, it's all part of that system. None of us operate in a vacuum. We're all part of an ecosystem, and we're either having a positive or a negative impact. So the question is how good can you get at being able to identify, doing a self-assessment from an emotional perspective? We're not asking you to assess your intellect. We're asking you to look at relationships and how emotionally intelligent you can be. And we begin by this idea of self-awareness. And in self-awareness, we really spend and get good at this ability to do this emotional self-assessment. So kind of in conclusion, let's wrap this up. One of the things I want to be clear about is that in my example with my niece, was there no fault on her part? No, absolutely. We were both engaging in this. But I realized that all I could do is become emotionally intelligent myself and do the things that I can do, things that I had control over. Whether she chose, it just so happened that she chose to hug me, which was awesome. She also could have chose just to say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept this, and walked off. But I was able to do what I could do and engage in what I can. And that's what I want to leave you with, is that this is something you can totally do, irrespective of anybody else that's out there in the world. You can become more self-aware and grow in emotional intelligence. And I do know from experience that as you do that and get better at it, it will begin to impact positively all the relationships in your life. So this is the first video of a 3-part video series that we're introducing this idea of self-awareness and what it is as it pertains to emotional intelligence. In the next video, we're going to talk about accurate self-assessment and how that plays out in helping you to become more emotionally intelligent and begin your journey with us of change and improving your life so that you can help us on our journey to put the human back into humanity.